It's funny how memories hit you at the most unexpected moments. I was reviewing property listings in my office when my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. Usually, I let unknown calls go to voicemail, but something made me pick up this time. Maybe it was because I just passed by my old neighborhood during a house showing, or maybe it was just one of life's strange coincidences. Easton, honey, is that you? My mother's voice hadn't changed in the 8 years since I'd last heard it. That same sugary sweetness that used to mask so much bitterness. I sat back in my chair, suddenly feeling like that 12-year-old kid again, standing at the bottom of the attic stairs with my cardboard boxes of belongings. Yes, it's me, I replied, keeping my voice neutral, professional, the way I'd learned to speak to difficult clients. Oh, thank goodness. I could hear the relief in her voice, followed by what sounded like muffled crying. We need your help, sweetie. Your father and we've lost the house. I closed my eyes, remembering the day they'd moved me to the attic. It was right after Harper, my younger sister by 2 years, had turned 10. Mom had called a family meeting in the living room, the one with the bay windows where she always hosted her book club meetings. Dad sat in his leather recliner, while Harper perched on the armrest of Mom's chair, already wearing that triumphant little smile. Easton, honey, Mom had said, using that same sweet voice she just used on the phone. Now that Harper's getting older, she needs her own space to grow into a young lady. We've decided she'll take the master bedroom and you'll move to the attic. It's actually bigger, you know. You should be grateful for the extra space. I remember standing there, looking between their faces. Dad's stern expression, Mom's practiced smile, Harper's poorly concealed glee. The master bedroom had been my room since we moved into the house when I was 6. It wasn't actually the largest bedroom. That title belonged to my parents' room, but it had an en-suite bathroom and a view of the backyard that I loved. But what about your room? I'd asked, looking at my parents. Why doesn't Harper take that one? Don't be difficult, Easton. Dad had snapped. This is what's best for the family. Your sister needs proper accommodations. The attic is perfectly fine. I've already put in some insulation and a window unit. That was the beginning of the narrative that would follow me through my teenage years. Easton is being difficult. When neighbors asked why they saw me climbing the pull-down attic stairs with my school backpack, my parents would shake their heads sadly. Easton's going through a difficult phase. He insisted on moving to the attic. You know how teenagers are, wanting their space. We're just trying to be understanding parents. The attic was never perfectly fine. The window unit worked sporadically at best, leaving me sweating through summer nights and shivering in winter. The roof leaked in 3 different spots, and my carefully positioned buckets became a familiar melody during rainstorms. The slanted ceiling meant I could only stand upright in the middle of the room, and the single bulb hanging from a cord cast strange shadows that took months to get used to. Meanwhile, Harper flourished in my old room. She got new furniture, a fresh coat of paint, pale purple her favorite, and regular upgrades to her growing needs. When she wanted a vanity, she got one. When she needed a bigger desk for studying, it appeared. When she complained about the old carpet, it was replaced within a week. I focused on what I could control. I studied hard, got a part-time job at 16, and saved every penny. The attic became my motivation. Every drop of water from the leaky roof fueled my determination to succeed. I got into a good college with a partial scholarship, worked through school, and graduated with a degree in real estate development. The irony wasn't lost on me. Now, at 35, I own a successful real estate agency, live in a beautiful house I bought and renovated myself, and have carefully cultivated a life where I'm in control of my space. The last time I saw my family was at my grandmother's funeral 8 years ago. Harper had tried to corner me about letting go of the past, while Mom made pointed comments about how successful I'd become, despite everything. The bank is foreclosing. Mom continued on the phone, her voice cracking. We've tried everything, but we need somewhere to stay. Just temporarily. Harper's place is too small, and you have that big house all to yourself. I looked around my office, at the awards on the wall, the photos of properties I'd helped families find or sell. Success had been my revenge, but now life was offering me something more literal. Actually, I said, surprising myself with how calm I felt, I do have a space available. It's bigger than a regular room. You should be grateful for the extra space. There was a pause on the other end of the line. I wondered if she recognized her own words from 23 years ago. Oh, Easton, thank you. We knew we could count on you. When can we? I'll text you the address. I cut in. Come by tomorrow at noon. I'll show you to your room. I hung up before she could respond, then sat there for a long moment, thinking about the attic in my own house. The one I'd been planning to renovate this spring. It even had the same kind of leaks as my old room, though I'd been quoted for repairs just last week. Funny how things work out sometimes. I picked up my phone again and cancelled the repair service. Some leaks, I decided, were worth keeping around, at least temporarily. Update. They arrived at exactly 12:07 p.m. I watched from my home office window as Dad struggled to park their aging Buick, taking 3 attempts to align it properly in my driveway. Even from here, I could see how time had changed them. Mom's hair had gone completely grey, and Dad's proud posture had developed a slight stoop. Harper's sleek Tesla pulled in right behind them. Of course she'd come. The family mediator, always ready to smooth things over with her particular brand of guilt and manipulation. I hadn't expected her, but I wasn't surprised either. I opened the front door before they could ring the bell. Mom stepped forward immediately, arms outstretched for a hug I didn't return. She dropped them awkwardly, her practiced smile faltering slightly. Easton, she said, smoothing her blouse. A nervous habit I remembered from childhood. Your home is beautiful. Thanks, I stepped aside to let them in. You can leave your shoes by the door. Harper came in last, her designer boots clicking against the hardwood. Nice place, big brother, she said, her tone carrying that familiar mix of condescension and forced cheerfulness, though it could use a woman's touch. I ignored the comment, leading them through the living room. Mom was already eyeing the guest bedroom door as we passed it, but I continued toward the hallway that led to the back of the house. Dad cleared his throat. Son, we really appreciate this. We won't be any trouble just until we get back on our feet. It's just temporary. Mom added quickly, we've already started looking at apartments. The same words they'd used about the attic. Just temporary, you'll barely notice. It's not so bad. I stopped at the pull-down attic stairs, reaching up to grasp the cord. Your room is up here, I said, pulling the stairs down. The hinges creaked. I hadn't oiled them for a reason. The silence that followed was deafening. Harper broke it first with a sharp laugh. You're joking, right? Mom and Dad can't stay in an attic. They're in their 60s. I turned to face them. The attic is perfectly fine. I've put in some insulation and a window unit. Dad's own words echoed back after 23 years. His face darkened with recognition. Now Easton, Mom started, her voice taking on that sickly, sweet tone I remembered so well. Don't be difficult. We're your parents. Difficult, I repeated the word quietly, like when I was being difficult at 12. When you told Mrs. Peterson I was going through a phase while I carried my mattress up these same kinds of stairs. That was different, Dad cut in. You were a child. We made decisions based on what was best for the family. And now I'm an adult, making decisions about my home. The guest room is my home office. The attic is what's available. Harper stepped forward, her face flushed. This is ridiculous. You're still holding on to childhood grudges. They lost their house, Easton. They need help, not some twisted revenge fantasy. I met her gaze steadily. You're right, Harper. They need help, and I'm helping. The attic is bigger than a regular room. They should be grateful for the extra space. Mom's face went pale as I quoted her exact words. Dad's hands clenched into fists, then relaxed, a telltale sign of his suppressed anger that I remembered well. I'll show you up, I continued, starting up the stairs. The steps creaked under my feet, another maintained imperfection. Watch your head on the ceiling. You'll learn where the low spots are pretty quickly. The attic was a mirror image of my childhood space. The slanted ceilings, the single bulb hanging from a cord, the window unit that I'd specifically chosen for its temperamental nature. There were even strategically positioned buckets under the known leak spots. This is insane, Harper declared from behind me. Mom, Dad, you can't stay here. Come to my place, we'll figure something out. Your studio apartment barely fits you, I pointed out. Besides, you always said the attic was fine when we were kids. What's changed? Mom was looking around the space, her hand pressed to her mouth. Dad stood rigid, his jaw working silently. I could see them taking it in, the water stains on the ceiling, the uneven floorboards, the way the summer heat was already making the space stuffy despite the struggling window unit. There's a bathroom down the hall, I said. You'll have to share it with any guests. The stairs might be tricky at night, but you'll get used to it. I did. Easton, Mom's voice cracked slightly. Please, we're your parents. Yes, you are. And this is what's available. Just like the attic was what was available for me. I started back down the stairs. I'll let you get settled. Dinner's at 6 if you want to join me. Or you can eat up here. I often did. Harper followed me down, catching my arm at the bottom of the stairs. You're being cruel, she hissed. They're not perfect, but they gave us a good life. They gave you a good life, I corrected her. I got the attic. Now they get to experience what that was like. I gently removed her hand from my arm. You're welcome to visit them any time. Maybe bring them a vanity or a new desk, for their growing needs. I walked away, leaving Harper staring after me and the sound of shuffling footsteps above. Through the ceiling, I could hear the familiar pattern of creaks and groans that I'd lived with for 6 years. The same sounds that had accompanied my homework sessions, my quiet tears, my plans for escape. A loud thud followed by Mom's muffled, sorry, brought a slight smile to my face. They were learning about the low ceiling already. Some lessons, it seems, are best taught through experience. I settled into my home office, the one with the bay window and garden view, and opened my laptop. Above me, the shuffle of footsteps continued as my parents explored their new accommodations. A light rain began to fall outside, and I waited for the moment they'd discover the first leak. Some things, after all, come full circle. Final update. It's been 3 months since my parents moved into the attic. 3 months of watching them experience exactly what they put me through, but with a crucial difference. They're in their 60s, not 12 years old. The first month was exactly what I expected. Mom tried to maintain her dignity, pretending everything was fine when we passed each other in the hallway. Dad barely spoke, his pride visibly wounded every time he had to duck under the low ceiling beams. Harper visited frequently, bringing them supplies and shooting me accusatory glances. But it was the second month when things got interesting. It started with the heat wave. The ancient window unit worked exactly as designed, which is to say barely. One particularly hot Tuesday, I came home to find Dad attempting to fix it, his shirt soaked with sweat. Need any help? I asked, standing at the top of the stairs. He grunted, fiddling with the controls. How did you manage with this thing? It's like it's programmed to fail. I didn't manage. I sweat through my sheets every night that summer when I was 13. I paused, watching him struggle. Just like you're doing now. The next day, I heard Mom on the phone with Harper, complaining about a persistent leak near their bed. We have to move the mattress every time it rains. She whispered, not realizing how sound carried through the vents, just like I used to hear them discussing my difficult phase years ago. Then move out, Harper snapped back, her voice tinny through the phone speaker. This is ridiculous. He's punishing you. Where would we go? Mom's voice cracked. We can't afford anything right now, the bankruptcy. I smiled, remembering all the times they told me I should be grateful for my private space when I complained about the conditions. Now they were trapped by the same circumstances they'd created for me, financial necessity mixed with pride. The breaking point came during a severe thunderstorm last week. The strategic leaks I'd maintained turned into small waterfalls. Around midnight, I heard them scrambling to position buckets, followed by Dad's muffled cursing when he hit his head on a beam. I waited until I heard Mom's familiar sound of distress, the same little gasp she'd make when something disturbed her perfect world, before climbing the stairs. The scene was exactly as I'd planned. They stood surrounded by buckets, water dripping steadily from 3 different spots in the ceiling. Their bed was pushed to an awkward angle to avoid the worst leak, and their few possessions were huddled in the only dry corner. "Everything okay up here?" I asked, echoing the words Mom used to call up to me during storms. They both turned to look at me. In the dim light from the single bulb, I could see the exhaustion on their faces, the defeat, the understanding. "Easton," Mom started, her voice trembling. I think we need to talk." "About the leaks." I leaned against the doorframe. "They're not so bad. You get used to it." "No," she whispered. "About everything." Dad sat heavily on their bed, the springs creaking in protest. "We were wrong," he said simply. The words hung in the air between us, competing with the steady drip of water into metal buckets. "Were you?" I kept my voice neutral. I thought the attic was perfectly fine, bigger than a regular room, even. "Stop it," Mom burst out, tears mixing with the rainwater on her face. "We know what we did. We just never understood what it was really like up here." "6 years," I said quietly. "I lived up here for 6 years, while Harper got the master bedroom. 6 years of you telling everyone I was being difficult when I complained about the heat, the cold, the leaks. We can't change the past," Dad said, his voice rough. "But this has shown us what we put you through. We were wrong, son. We were wrong, and we're sorry." I looked at them, really looked at them. My mother, her carefully maintained appearance now disheveled, her designer clothes replaced by practical wear that could handle the attic's conditions. My father, his authoritarian stance diminished by the necessity of constantly ducking under beams. "Sorry doesn't fix things," I said finally. "But it's a start." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a set of keys. The guest house out back. It's been ready for the past month. 1 bedroom, private bath, working AC, no leaks. Their faces showed confusion, then dawning comprehension. You had a place for us all along," Mom asked. "I needed you to understand first." I tossed the keys to Dad. "Move in tomorrow, but remember, this is temporary, just until you get back on your feet, and this time I mean it." I turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and the contractors are coming next week to fix these leaks and renovate the attic. I'm turning it into a proper living space, because no one should have to live like this, not a child, and not their parents." As I walked down the stairs, I heard Mom start to cry, but they weren't her usual manipulative tears. They were the sound of someone who finally understood the weight of their actions. The next morning, I woke up to find Dad already moving their things to the guest house. He worked silently, methodically, nodding to me as I left for work. When I returned that evening, Harper's car was in the driveway. She was waiting in my kitchen, 2 cups of coffee on the counter. "You had the guest house ready the whole time," she said. "It wasn't a question." "Yes, you wanted them to understand what you went through." "Yes." She was quiet for a moment, stirring her coffee. "I never really got it before, how bad it was up there. I was just a kid too, enjoying my nice room, not thinking about what it meant for you. And now I understand why you did this. It wasn't just revenge. It was education." I nodded, taking a sip of my coffee. Through the kitchen window, I could see Mom and Dad settling into the guest house, their silhouettes moving behind the curtains. They looked smaller somehow, but not broken. Just aware.